Wow. Episode 3 of season 11 of the Comm-UNITY podcast. Dear listeners, welcome to the third episode of season 11 of the Comm-UNITY podcast, hosted by Civsos Africa. For those that were able to tune into episode 1 and 2, I was privileged to host Treasure Layola, who is here with us. Treasure is an enabler of the executive office at Civsos Africa. After almost 3 weeks, we are in the third and final episode with Treasure. And in this episode, we look at the power of community and the Ubuntu philosophy. I am because we are. So we're going to be jointly reflecting on the potential of giving as captured in season 3 of the Comm-UNITY podcast. Well, for those that would need a recap, this season we are actually doing a reflection on the past 10 seasons of the Comm-UNITY podcast. So episode 1, we looked at season 1, episode 2, we dived into season 2, and needless to say, episode 3 will be diving into season 3. At the center of the African philanthropy perspective is community. Does this impact on the way we give? I invite you to listen in as Treasure and I capture the different aspects within and around communities. So Treasure, you're definitely now a professional podcaster. Add that to the number of things after 3 weeks, 4, 5 weeks since our first episode. Till now, how do you feel about this?
Oh, wow, Antonio, I feel exhilarated. I'm actually excited. And not that this will be my last episode, but excited about how far I've come.
Okay.
Who knew I could also be on a podcast?
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So it really feels excited. It feels exciting.
It's okay. I can feel the excitement. Exciting. Well, that shows how happy Treasure is to be here with us today. After almost 5 weeks of, breathe in, exhale, inhale, let it just get inspired and just see her take a walk around the community just before every episode. That's very interesting. So Treasure, what is your understanding of the Ubuntu philosophy, and how is community at the center of this? If you could just break this down for our listeners.
Okay, to understand the concept of Ubuntu philosophy, and over the past few months and maybe even longer, I've been trying to read upon Ubuntu and how to relate, and just allow me define it using the quote by Tutu. And in this quote he says, a person is a person through other persons.
Wow.
None of us comes into the world fully formed. We would not know how to think or walk or speak or behave as human beings unless we learned it from other human beings. So we need other human beings in order to be human. And I think this generally speaks to the whole idea around community and communing and being together and being one. Like your opening statement, you are because we are, and vice versa. So that's exactly how I would look at it. It believes in group solidarity, which is generally at the center of survival in most of the African communities around us.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a very interesting quote from the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So Treasure, just to think about that, we've talked about what happened in the time of COVID, and that people are able to survive in, hostile environments because, there's support from other people, even with hunger and poverty and, and deprivation. We see that community solidarity, it binds us, I'm trying to look at the communities that I've grown up in, those that are in and around us. You see that together there is there is that uniqueness that we provide when we support each other. So indeed, there's always a helping hand, and whenever one reaches out, there's more than just another one that helps. It's a group of people. So what could we learn from the third season of the podcast about this?
In the true spirit of Ubuntu, we learn how to be connected.
Okay.
Because we know Ubuntu emphasizes that all people are connected.
Okay.
And that the well-being of others is interlinked and interwoven. So individuals have a responsibility to care for others, just to contribute to the common good. And I remember when I was growing up back in the village, during the harvest seasons, and this is, the millet?
Yes.
I remember we would wake up in the morning, and then my grandmother would say, okay, this entire week, kuje shoburo. So you get to the garden and find 20 other women.
Wow.
Ready with their knives.
Okay.
And they're busy literally picking the millet.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, we would all sit and eat together. I remember some would even go to the plantation. My grandmother would say, okay, go this side, go that side, and she would allow them to harvest.
Yes.
So they would pick matoke, they would pick maybe sweet potatoes, whatever would be in season.
Yes.
And then they would go with that food. Okay.
Yeah.
For some will be like, yes, it was butter trade, but no, it was the whole idea of communing, and they would do it happily. They are singing songs, they are telling stories. And so we would not know where some of them would come from, because they would walk really, really long distances, maybe from the neighboring villages, but they would come happy, willingly. They are contributing to something. And then even when this millet was put away in the granaries, there would be another phase of, we used to use sticks to beat the millet. Back in the day, what we see now, those... the machines that do it, we would use sticks. That would also be another phase. People would still come from within the community, from wherever they would have come from. And it was an interesting aspect to look at. Different people communing, supporting each other, sharing what they have. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. But we also look at compassion. It emphasizes the need to feel empathy towards others. It comes naturally, especially those who are vulnerable and marginalized and can't help themselves. We already looked at the story from our generous giving, our generous spirit of giving, where these young people move in the community, singing, attracting others to join them as they distribute food to the elderly, looking out for them, because they know they're at a stage where maybe all the young ones have gone, their children are gone, and maybe they are left alone. But the need and the responsibility to take that on. Let's move around, seeing the elderly in our community. What do they need? How can we help them? How can we assist them? And all this is done informally, but we know that it is happening out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And respect, the importance of respecting others. And mostly treating others with dignity. And we touched a bit on that earlier when we dealt with the second episode. Helping people, but helping them with dignity. So you do not strip that away from them just because you're doing something for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that has come back after almost 3 weeks. Dignity in giving, and that is very, very big for us. You've brought up something interesting, and after episode 2, I remember I had to go back and just reflect on our generous spirit and the story that you pointed out. And I know that, maybe not to preempt it, but the spirit of Ubuntu also comes out in the Sipsos publication. For those that may be wondering what this is, our generous spirit is a Sipsos Africa publication, a lovely book that you can get from Aristoc for those that are in Kampala, and if you're in Jinja, well, just move to local flavors and get yourself a copy of this book. So Treasure, the spirit of Ubuntu, the theme of Ubuntu, I know you've talked about interconnectedness, you've hinted on compassion and respect, And I know that all these, you see that there's the gift of sharing, and that whole aspect of each one bringing what they have to connect. How does this, in one or two ways, how is it reflected in the publication?
We have a few themes that actually stand out, Ubuntu themes that come through in this publication. So we see a lot of love and sympathy and kindness and sharing. We see people sharing their resources, working together for the common good. And this publication actually encourages people to be generous. If you look through the different pictures and the different activities, you'll feel drawn in one way or another. You'll definitely feel drawn in. So when we look at harmony, there's a lot of play. There's a lot of play in how the images were captured. Like I said, the pictures do tell different stories. You look at the picture and you feel like you one and part of it. You can relate, you can recall. Most of these images take us back to when we were growing up and actually make us realize we were generous from way back. We've been practicing generosity from when we were children, because we may now not think about it, but when you try to look back and when you look through those pages, something will resonate with you, definitely. And like I said, there are some that are standard. The fundamentals of sharing are prevalent in our communities, and you don't even need to look far. If you step out right now, something will trigger your mind or your thoughts and be like, oh, I can actually share in this way or that way, or I have been a recipient of people being generous in one way or another.
Yes. Yeah. That's very interesting. And the words dignity keep coming back. I should make you the dignity ambassador of the community, because dignity is very key, how we give should not in any way strip anyone of who they actually are. So that is very key. And, aspects of caring, giving, because I know that this is my way of expressing how much you mean to me in my community. That's a very interesting aspect. And again, our generous spirit is such an amazing publication. So thanks to Civsos Africa. So Treasure, after about 5 weeks again of us meeting together to just share about what it meant for the community podcast in season 1 and the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown in Uganda, and then moving on to what it looks like giving in Ugandan communities, and now here we are breaking down what the Ubuntu concept is and what it means for us and our work and our communities, and for us as individuals. What would you encourage our listeners to do in order to make a contribution in their communities and in the country or the continent, for those that are listening in?
Well, you can start where you are. Be intentional.
Okay.
There are small contributions that are always within our means. You can visit the sick who are not able to have people visit them in hospitals or even in their homes. You can extend condolences to people that have lost loved ones. It doesn't have to start big. You can start where you are, just by being intentional and saying, I want to give. How do I give? We can tell you how to give. In case you're confused about how you can give.
Yes.
So we can tell you how to. But we also know that we have a lot of people that stand on the shoulders of others. People have paid school fees for you. Not necessarily your biological parents, relatives, friends. They contribute towards your fees. So you'll find a child who will say, I'm not the child of just one person.
Yeah.
All these different people have placed their hands through resources and time to feed into the person that I've become. So there are many different ways you can give. But also, why don't you volunteer?
Yeah.
That's giving of your time. You can volunteer and apply your time and skills to support different causes around you, but also, of course, being cognizant of the different values of where you're going to attach your time and your skill. Are they aligned with who you are and what you believe in? So that would go a long way. And of course, donating money. That's the easiest form. In case you're like, well, I don't know how to give. Donate money.
Okay.
You can do that. And goods. We usually see people calling, and this is on the social media, bring all your used items that you don't need anymore. Like, bring them here and we'll help you distribute them. So there are people out there who are always finding and looking for things to take to those who are in need. So you can also do that. Like, it is not so hard to give. It isn't really. You just need to be intentional about it.
That's very interesting. As you say that, I'm trying to reflect on what aspects of my community I am part of that give back, whether it's through the church where I pray or through the youth group that I'm a part of, just not only giving your time, but seeing how you can collectively think about different ways on how to give back to community, to the schools around you, to the elders around you, and to even those among you. And not just around you, but those among you that are reaching out in different ways, asking for a helping hand. So, Treasure, it's been a pleasure hosting you the past 3 episodes.
Thank you.
You've been, like we had said at the start, you're now definitely... you need a certificate. You're now a professional podcaster. Any final words, both about your experience and just philanthropy or generosity as a whole?
Okay, just one. Let's display various forms of love.
Okay.
How we greet.
Okay.
It's a very simple thing, but based on how you greet someone, they will actually sense that love. And love is part of giving, and it is free. So we can do that. We can start there. How you greet someone. Is there compassion? Do they feel the warmth of, we can start there.
Wow. And see, if we're going to start there, well, I'll beg that it's also the place we end at. So since we started there, well, we can also end there. Did you greet anyone this morning? Did you greet anyone today? Are you still around someone you can just greet and get to know how they are? Well, thank you so much, Treasure. It's been a pleasure. I do not know what episode 4 holds for us, but I'm looking forward to episode 4 when I invite our listeners to tune in. So thank you so much, Treasure.
Thank you.
Have a great day, and thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure hosting you at the Comm-UNITY podcast.
Thank you so much.